Hi, I'm Denise Chapin, and I am your podcast host for Talkie TA, and this is Transform 2025. And with me, I have Mike Cusenza, and he is the head of organizational design and engagements.
Yes.
Okay, with 11-fold. Mike, it's so nice to meet you.
Likewise.
Yes, and welcome to Transform.
Thank you.
So tell me what you expect to gain from your time here, your key takeaway that you want to leave here with.
Yeah, thanks. I find that this is a great place to understand the themes that are happening in the HR space. I think both attending workshops like this and also listening to the presenters, you can start to distill what themes are and maybe what's the future is coming for either HR tech or HR. So, and then the general networking is really helpful to understand what people do and really who they are. You can, there's so many people, can be a little bit overwhelming, but I think in general, you have a reason to connect and understand what people do, and it's very healthy to kind of step out of work and do this every day. I've been like workshopping kind of on my own. I've been like hosting little like design sessions in the corners and stuff like that.
You have?
Yeah, I mean the general question we ask is just like what problem are you keeping you up at night at work? And that's usually where we start the conversation. And that gets people going.
So what kind of problems are you trying to solve for with 11-fold?
Well, it's really up to the audience. It's really up to people that we work with, because we find ourselves to be just like a mirror to their problems. Like what's the challenge that keeps you up at night is really a question that can be answered by anybody in any context. And then what we do is we listen to them. Like we were saying, like you just listen intently to what you're hearing, and then you start to move from listening to brainstorming or solving for it. And then what's the plan you're going to put in place? So we've derived this system from the same principles that are used in user experience design. That like if you were to design a phone or design a car, it's like, what are we solving for? And what's the problem statement? And then what could we do about it? And then how are we going to do it?
Very interesting. Yeah. Do you have any case studies that are like?
Yeah. It's funny. It's like you could highlight these big ones, but we also like to highlight the little one, right? So we had a client we were working with that one person was like really struggling with like coming to work, just like engagement, because they were a father who wanted to be taking their child to school every morning, but they were working in hours with European hours, so they weren't able to take their kid to school. So what we would do is we come in and say, hey, Denise, what are you struggling with? I can't take my son to work. Okay, well, how do we design a solution to that? And so what we did is we said, oh, this person over here who's on Pacific time, let's just swap the attendance to the meeting. You don't have to come anymore, and you can just report it out. And that person's engagement just boosted because they were able to design work around them. And yeah, it's very simple. It's free. And that's the thing. It's just you have to know how to ask the question and really be creative in designing a solution.
Wow. Yeah. So any kind of problem.
Any kind of problem. I mean, that's the best ones for us are the cheapest ones, because people don't want to spend thousands of dollars. Usually you're just saying, hey, well, for example, in our team meetings, we have a younger person who's our social media head, and myself and the co-founders were talking about how to deal with contracts and how to deal with legal stuff. And he's like, I'm managing our social media. I don't need to know that. So what we did is we put everything that he wanted to learn about at the beginning of the meeting, and then we took him and excused him from the meeting at the end. And he's like, great, I can go. And just little simple solutions like that. Now, those are simple. There can be bigger ones where you're changing who's reporting to who or what you're investing in as a business. But it's really the act of asking the questions, listening, and then following through in the design process that is really unlocking a solution.
Wow.
That's
amazing.
That's the same thing that like Apple does with your phone or McDonald's does with you when you walk into a McDonald's. It's the same process, but we apply it to work. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. So now what about AI? Let's talk about that because that's one of my questions I've been asking guests. So with these new systems coming out now that are what we call them agentic AI, they can not only solve problems, but they can like look ahead and figure out a solution for a problem they think that you're going to have. Right?
Yeah.
What do you think HR and talent acquisition needs to do to incorporate these tools into the work processes successfully?
Yeah, I think a couple things. It's a great question. I think it's on the minds of a lot of people here is that artificial intelligence, I think we have to kind of be humble in admitting that we don't actually know what's going to happen and like starting there. But I think what we try to think about it as is we we have the ability and the autonomy to be proactive about how we integrate technology and people, right? I think right now there's this really kind of fearful divide between those two. It's like people are skeptical, companies are curious as to what the benefits of these tools will be.
And cautious.
Right. And what I think we're saying is like we know there will be a future where these two things exist. People, talent acquisition, there will be a future that both of these exist. How do you be proactive in determining what you want that future to look like versus being reactive and kind of watching and just adopting what comes through? So a perfect example is like you mentioned recruiting. It's like, well, what elements of the recruiting process will we not negotiate when it comes to human interaction?
Oh, that's
You know?
such a great question.
Well, right. And you can answer that,
Right.
right? Like some hiring manager could say, we will never negotiate when we sign an offer. And that will never be an automated system. But we can look at these other 6 steps in the recruiting process and we can maybe simplify them or bring in a technology to do that. So I think we talked about on LinkedIn, I was saying that there's always going to be a human element to it. Like, I don't think everybody's afraid that the machines are going to take over. I think we don't see it that way. We think that there's going to be a line that companies and leaders have to draw between where their humans are and their human interaction is going to be most prevalent and most valuable, and then where the technology is going to be most prevalent and most valuable.
I appreciate you saying that because my last guest, and a lot of people think this way,
Well,
and he made a good point
Yeah.
too. He said HR is a cost center, and it's costing the company money,
yeah,
and it's non-revenue generating, right? So how much HR do we really need?
right.
And talent acquisition rolls up under HR.
Yeah.
Yeah, or it used to.
Right.
Now, of course, they're kind of looking at talent acquisition running up under talent management.
Yeah.
And as HR now going to run up under
Yeah.
talent management. So there's
Yeah.
all these variations. But to your point, I mean, and I had to agree with the other Mike that was just here a while ago too, because I said, well, yeah, because generally speaking, when companies lay off, who are the first people they lay off?
Yeah.
HR,
Yeah.
talent acquisition.
Yeah.
Because if you're not hiring, you don't need so many of these
Exactly.
people.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, first off, don't ever trust a guy named Mike. You know? Me or the other guy.
Yeah.
But I think my response to that is, and this is a strange angle to take, but like, who would be your favorite like musical artist of all time?
My favorite musical artist of all time.
Yeah.
Let's say the Eagles, because they're playing here this year.
Okay, the Eagles. So the way we look at it is like whatever made the Eagles was like very specific, right? They had the band members who were all these unique, innovative people. They had music producers, artists, a guitarist. They wrote this wonderful music that like took the 70s by storm. Why we don't think AI is capable of completely, because at the end of the day, like the human experience is so nuanced, like any art form would be, is like your insight and innovation will never be replaced by artificial intelligence, in our opinion. Like, it'll optimize things, yes. It'll help us get information quickly, yes. But there's like a level of insight that unique human beings have, that artists have, that won't be replaced. And maybe that wasn't the most dramatic analogy. Creativity, all these things like are very human experiences, and maybe someday it'll be replaced. But I don't think we believe it. I like, we think about there's a level of art. Well, no, I mean that's the beauty of the human experience, is like that is what we create, and so we just look at that in the form of work and say, what is the beauty that your people bring to the workplace, and what's uniquely specific to them, and let's not change that. Let's just enhance it, empower it, and then we'll layer technology to the side to do the things that are not necessary for people to do. So, yeah.
So they can be more imaginative and creative.
Exactly. I think it's funny, a lot of our founders have all come from large tech companies where there was just so many intelligent people doing things that weren't meeting them where they were at in form of their intelligence and creativity. And so what AI I think will do is it'll remove a lot of that remedial work, and it'll leave people the brain space, the time, the energy to think like, oh, well, what if we developed a new couch, or what if we put this design? Those are things that are going to be a lot harder for a technology to do. So yeah, it'll, exactly like you said, it will open up their time and their energy for more creative, innovative human.
Maybe we'll get more 70s bands back.
Yeah, to the Eagles. I mean, I was gonna say Fleetwood Mac or Tom Petty. One of those. It's all good to me. But I think what's the fun part about thinking it that way is they're unique.
Yeah.
Like, You
And
can't.
all their music was unique.
Right.
Still is.
And they were inspired by one another. There was inspiration, but they all like shifted it a couple degrees to their own tune. And so that's where I think the analogy between like where humans and technology are going to form is like art will never be replaced, but maybe these other things that can be, will be. So,
Yeah. Well, if you think about all the people that are here,
yeah.
I mean, there's probably some overlap between what some of these companies do.
Yeah.
But just if you take what we're talking about now from the music scene and you put it even into this room, and you look at all of these different booths
I know.
and the creativity and the
know.
imagination that went into not just their product. I mean, look how unique all their booths are, right?
I know.
And so I just look around and go, wow, that's like really imaginative and great.
Right. And I think behind all of these is probably one or two or three people who are just passionate beyond belief about this one idea.
Yeah.
And I think that's another thing that like humans will always have is like that passion for like, I have this idea and I'm going to be the only one that drives it forward. And we can't replace that. You know, we really can't replace that. So, and that's why some of them don't make it because it's not the right time in the market or they're not branding themselves or whatever. There's plenty of things that can happen, but they wouldn't have gotten here if there wasn't that innovation spark that people see to it. So
I agree.
yeah.
Well, and another thing that you brought up too that I think is very important is the fact that there are so many things that we could use AI for. And that's where I think we need to really kind of focus on that and not worry about this fallout that people are fearful of. Just, hey, stay focused on what it can do, what we need it to do for us.
Yeah.
And I go back to this one woman I interviewed because what she shared was just really resonated with me. And I think a lot of people have also agreed when I repeat what she said. Keep your tech stack low. You don't have to go out and buy everything that's coming out right now. Use what you have. See where it's working for you.
Yeah.
Like you said though too. I mean, maybe contact you and say, hey, this is what we're like aiming for. We're kind of needing to do something different with this part of our business. We're not sure if we need to go deeper into a tech stack.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah. And I think the question that I would pose to that leader or other HR leaders is, what are you solving for? What do you think you're solving for? Because oftentimes what you're solving for, once you excavate a couple layers down, it actually could be something that you didn't see before or something that you may have missed or something that is just floating out there. And so getting to a root cause of things. And yeah, I just think it's a matter of being proactive. I think that's the biggest thing that I may leave is that the proactivity and being intentional allows you to dictate more than you would have if you would have just said, everyone's doing this, so we should do it too. It's just saying like, no, we actually want the interconnectivity of human beings and artificial intelligence to be determined by us, our culture, our values, our problems, business statements, and business situations. So
I agree. Yeah. So one question was on the candidate experience.
okay, great.
When we are interviewing candidates,
Yeah.
there are a lot of people who feel ghosted, right?
Yeah.
What do we need to do as HR and TA professionals, right,
Yeah.
to better the candidate experience
Yeah.
so that all candidates have a good experience, not just those that we hire?
Yeah. Interviewing is such an interesting point right now, I feel like, because of the market and technology and all these other factors. I'll answer maybe for 11-fold and kind of how we would see the problem, and then I maybe answer for personal experience. But what we would say is, what is the experience those candidates want to have? And you highlighted something. We just want to be seen. We want to be heard. Okay, well, what does that look like? Maybe that's as simple as an email that comes back that's worded very empathetically of like, hey, like we know that applying for a job is really difficult right now. We know that you're getting ghosted. Like we don't love that either. And we have thousands of applicants we need to review. So just bear with us and we'll get back to you when we have a decision. A note like that really can alleviate a lot of the emotional reaction to someone who's in that pipeline and maybe isn't hearing back. And they say, oh, well, that one company wrote me this really nice note that changed the way I look at and feel about facts. So I think the first thing is asking what those candidates want from an experience and designing around that. And then I think, and that's a really simple thing to do. You could build that note into your applicant tracking system to say like, hey, just be patient with us. And that provides opens up a conversation of empathy to the candidate. Having been on the recruiting side and trying to understand kind of what that experience is like, I think fundamentally we're not doing a very good job of like matching. Take LinkedIn, and I don't want to throw LinkedIn at the bus, but there's this level of it's a one-way transaction, it feels like, for a lot of candidates. Meaning, I'm going to take my time to design a resume, put a cover letter together, click apply. I'm going to push it out into the world, and there's no feedback loop, whether or not they get the role. Maybe they don't hear about it for months. And I just think there's probably a solution out there that would enable there would be just a quicker, like, hey, I see you. I see you. I appreciate you. And a lot of companies do write like, hey, thanks for applying. But also just being a little bit more empathetic to what they're going through, and really designing a solution around what they want.
Somebody mentioned earlier as well to do like a sequential email chain to the candidate where you do the one you're talking about and then maybe a week later, or he said 3 days later, I think, send out another one and say, hey, just following up, we have kind of our narrow pipeline of candidates, but we will continue to stay in contact with you, whatever. But just having that follow on, and then when you do hire someone, send that final, we still have your resume, we're going to hang on to it, but just so people know kind of where they're at in the pipeline.
Right.
Not just one,
Yeah.
because he thought just one isn't going to do it. So I liked hearing about that too.
Yeah.
You know, because we're setting up sequential emails now all the time for marketing.
Right. Exactly.
So why not do it for the candidate experience?
Well, and with the motto we have is treat employees like customers of their own experience.
Right.
So if you treat them like a customer and you're an applicant, you say, okay, like, how do we want to treat this person in a way that keeps them coming back to apply for a role rather than it sends them down the street? So that's the thing. It's like, Denise, maybe you're not the right fit now, maybe we don't actually have open roles, but we want you to keep coming back. Because that's what recruiting is like, I think anybody who's been a recruiter knows that it's really healthy to have a pipeline of people that you don't always have to source. It's like if you are treating candidates like customers of the experience, they keep wanting to come back, then you don't have to do that sourcing step. You're getting great people that have already engaged with your brand, and you just keep that cycle going. Yeah.
Certainly.
Yeah.
Wow. I love that. That's so good.
Yeah. I don't know. I think fundamentally people are applying for jobs, and even interviewing maybe we could take a fresh look at interviewing. And I'm a huge fan of like internships and working as like a consultant or something beforehand, just to get an experiential understanding of what the company and what the individual can provide. I know that system isn't really structured that way these days, but if there's
And it hasn't been for a long time, but it's really funny. So clients and companies have oftentimes, especially big corporations, have what they call a contingent workforce group. Right?
Yeah.
Where they do bring people on for 90 days or 6 months or whatever. And then if they like them and they see a position for them, they convert them.
Yeah.
Why aren't they doing that with everybody?
Yeah, I mean, I think I agree. And I think that there's some kind of operational difficulties of like having to onboard them and train them. But I think the cost of getting the hiring process wrong is really high. And so if you can just like find out who that person is in a more kind of, we joke that like interviewing, if you're good at interviewing, you're good at interviewing. It doesn't mean you're going to be good at the job, you know? So is there a way to bridge that gap between what they're actually going to deliver as an employee and how they show up in the interview process? But yeah.
Well, as a long-term recruiter, I always said, somebody who's good at interviewing, watch out. That's a red flag.
Right.
Because it's like people who've been in your positions for a long time are not good at interviewing.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I think someone said it earlier today. The best people are the ones who aren't looking for jobs.
Right.
And I don't know. I think that what we do at 11-fold is really just asking candidates and saying, how do you want us to treat you as an applicant? And that's like maybe that's costly to do. It's maybe not in the business kind of strategy to do, but it's a longer term play to like, what do we want our employer brand to be?
Sure.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. That's us. Ask them. You just ask them.
What can we do to close the gap, if you would, and to make a more cohesive kind of hybrid? A lot of people are saying hybrid is the way to go.
Okay.
So how are we going to convince companies, right,
Yeah.
to be more open-minded, to be more flexible? Because there is still this push and pull with companies for the return to office, and employees wanting to either have a hybrid or a remote position.
Oddly, I think the RTO conversation is a conversation of like trust. It's odd, but if I know my employer trusts me and I trust my employer to give me the autonomy to work the way that I want to work, I'm going to be more loyal to that company. So I think that what's happening with RTO is like let me turn this back on here. What would your ideal work day look? Where would you be? How would you be engaging with work? Would it be collaborative? Would you want to work on your own what would it be for you?
Well, I've been working remote for years, but when I have worked on site, I can remember working for On Semiconductor years ago.
Yeah.
And I would go into the office when I had a reason to.
Right.
So like if I had interviews I had to do that day, or if I had to meet with a hiring manager or a hiring team, if there was a reason for me to be in the office, I went and I was flying the firm.
Right. Yeah.
And oftentimes it was 1 or 2 days a week.
Yeah.
But it wasn't always the same days.
Right.
So I think and somebody else mentioned earlier, it's on a case-by-case basis. And I love what you say about building trust, because you have to trust what your employees need. Just like you talk about asking the candidates what they want for the candidates, but what do the employees need?
Yeah.
What do they think that their need?
Right. Exactly.
And we brought up the fact that we've got people who are newer to career, who might be just right out of college, who need to be on site, who need to have that experience of working with people. They can't work from home as well, right? But somebody else mentioned, well, maybe they can't work from home all the time, but if you gave them maybe 2 days a week, and then they had their mentoring experience and their, what he called imprinting of the culture, right? Have them in the office 3 days a week. So it's on a case-by-case basis.
Right. I think it comes down to, it's not RTO, return to office policy, shouldn't be about like where and when. We should be focusing on why.
Yeah.
Like, why are we gathering? Why is it important for a recent graduate to come into the office? Well, maybe they can see what it's like working in an office, or maybe they can meet with a mentor, or maybe they can attend a social experience that brings them closer to the company. So those are all questions of why, without having to go into the how many days and where we're going to do it. It's not a when, it's a why question. And so I think what's really interesting is when you ask someone who's maybe has a mother with 2 kids and a 23-year-old who it's their first job, those people are likely going to want something different. And what I think employers are challenged with, and what we help companies do at 11fold, is really find where that balance is. It's like, we want to provide enough flexibility and trust in both of those populations to say, we trust you to do your jobs and do them well in whatever environment that looks like. And we reserve the opportunity to bring you together to do collaboration and innovation and these things that are actually really unique to kind of the human experience in groups. So I think if I were to design a work environment, personally, I have young children. I enjoy taking them to school and going to their soccer practice, but I also enjoy hopping on my computer at night and going through emails, which is a very unique to me.
Right.
And so what I think, it's like, if I'm doing that my way, how am I contributing to the organization in a way that I respect and honor the trust that they've given me to do that? And so there's kind of this back and forth. It's not one way. It's not draconian. It's not forced upon people. I think it's an open conversation.
Yeah. And again, it is case by case.
Yeah, it's case by case. I mean,
and I think that employers, and somebody had said it this morning, is, for me, I have to be challenged too as a leader to not feel the need to micromanage or to babysit my employees.
Right.
That's just, that's in my head. But the thing is a lot of our older workers grew up
1,000.
working 5 days a week, being supervised or supervising.
Right.
So it's like inbred in them,
And it's a mental shift, and I think it's okay to say, if that's what works for you and that's what you're used to, well, let's keep that going. But if your workday looks a little differently for you, because the ultimate thing I think a business wants is to get the most out of their people.
Right.
And I think the thing that an employee wants most is to feel like they're being challenged and valued and doing great work.
Right.
And so when in both of those statements, where and how you work is not even mentioned. So
it's not relevant.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's just all of it.
No.
And I think a lot of employers struggle with how we talk about it, because they say, oh, well, how do you scale something like that? How do you provide? And there's a lot of solutions. There's a lot of creative ideas that you can get to say, hey, maybe we have a quarterly offsite in Las Vegas, and during that time we're doing X and it's very intentional. So I would say,
You really have to scale everything.
no.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, no.
Is everything scalable?
I would say that there is something about the human, like me and you meeting in person is a lot different than me and you meeting online, but why we're meeting matters too. It's not just that we're here. It's the fact that we came here with a purpose and an intention to like have this dialogue. And so if you apply that to the workspace, it's like, how are people thinking about showing up and why they're meeting? Is if we're meeting just to meet, maybe that's not the best use of our time. But if we're meeting to achieve something that we both agree on, then maybe that's a better use of our time. So yeah, it's design it, ask people what they want, and find a way to design it so the business and the individual can both thrive. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mike.
And it's been a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yes, sure. Yeah, let's stay in touch.
Yeah, for sure.
I may need you to design something for you. It's like a new business.
We'll do it. We'll do it.
Right.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
All right.